The following news flash is brought to you by the Lone Star Lowdown, providing your daily bulletins for the commodities market. Today in history, news updates, and the inside scoop into the tides of the alternative. Market for Wednesday the 27th of January 2016 opened up with gold at $1,120 an ounce, silver $14.48 an ounce, Texas crude $31.45 a barrel, and Bitcoin is currently sitting at about 395 U.S. currency. Today in history, Thursday, January 27th, 1825, the U.S. Congress approves Indian Territory in what is present-day Oklahoma. This cleared the way for the forced relocation of Eastern Indians, known as the Trail of Tears. In recent news, the Vatican announced over the weekend that Pope Francis will be visiting Sweden later this year to mark the 500th anniversary of Martin Luther's writing and posting of the 95 Theses on the front doors of All Saints Church in Wittenberg, Germany, October 31st, 1517. Amongst other points, Luther primarily wrote argumentations against the Roman Catholic theology of indulgences, essentially the selling of forgiveness from temporal punishment from sins for money, a practice still upheld by the Church. On October 31st of this year, Francis is set to be at the southern Swedish city of Lund, where the Lutheran World Federation was founded in 1947. While his predecessors have visited Protestant churches, Francis has come under criticism from traditionalists and conservatives within the Church, who accuse him of sending conflicting signals about interfaith relations. Catholic traditionalists have accused Francis of making too many concessions to Lutherans, since both religions will be using Luther's Common Prayer during the 2017 Reformation commemoration services being held jointly between the two churches, which they say excessively praise Luther, who was historically condemned as a heretic and excommunicated. Pope Francis made ecumenism one of the main themes of his papacy, considering he has already visited the Lutheran Church of Rome, the Waldensian Protestant community in northern Italy, Rome's Jewish synagogue, and is soon due to become the first pope to visit Rome's mosque later this year. Marvin Minsky, a pioneer in the field of artificial intelligence at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, died Sunday at the age of 88. Minsky viewed the brain as a machine whose function can be studied and replicated in the computer, and he considered how machines might be endowed with common sense, or artificial intelligence. Daniela Russ, director of MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, said that Minsky helped create the vision of artificial intelligence as we know it today. This was your lowdown for January 27th, 2016.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the walls. The chair is against the walls. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. I have a joke for you.
Okay.
The government in this town is excellent and uses your tax dollars efficiently.
You thought you'd see it coming. The moment you becomes what you feel.
Bitcoin is immune from attack almost completely. Bitcoin, you actually gain far more from using the computing power to generate Bitcoin.
There's a system approaching perfection. Just in time for it disappearing. There's a system approaching perfection. Just in time for it disappearing.
We'll walk deeper into the belly of the beast. It means I'm able to further limit reckless government spending. I mean, I have so many ideas. Some are simple, like take down traffic lights and eliminate the post office. The bigger ones will be tougher, like bring all of this crumbling to the ground.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is The Crypto Show, a show dedicated to understanding the promise of currency, technology, and anarchy, and the pursuit of a free society. And if you believe like we do that such a society can and should exist, then join us, why don't you, as we parade through a world unbound by convention, a world sketched by the beauty of the human artist. Because each and every one of you listening right now is that artist. So for the next 2 hours, let go of your most sacred system of thought and entertain the possibility that maybe, just maybe, everything we've been told about currency, technology, yes, even the dirty little word liberty is only one part of an ever-expanding, ever-possible, complex universe of ideas, one that we simply refuse to explore. So what do you say, listeners? Let's do some universe exploring tonight and have some fun while we do it.
They see me rolling, they hating, patrolling and trying to catch me riding.
Trying to catch me riding dirty. Whereas Weird Al would have it white and nerdy. Have you seen that music video?
I think somebody did catch you riding dirty today, didn't they?
Yeah, basically. That's a whole story. I did get into, I shouldn't probably tell too much personal information, but I did get into a car accident today. So I'm all shook up. So if this interview, hopefully this interview will go as well as the typical interview. Actually better, It's a typical interview is not that great. No, I'm just kidding. So I am recovering from that. It was actually a pretty major accident, but everyone was ultimately okay. And I don't have a car for the moment. So
good for you.
That kind of sucks. But anyway, let's get to what we need to get to. Before I introduce our guest, and actually we're going to have two guests on today, one of whom is last minute, our second guest, and I'll get to that too in a second. Don't forget, guys, Logos Radio Network is having their annual fundraiser. Please go to logosradionetwork.com and contribute so you can keep all the wonderful programming that you hear on 89.1 going. Logos has been around for a long time. Let's keep it around for equally a long time. Don't forget also, we are still, as always, doing a fundraiser for Ross Ulbricht's Appeals Fund. You can go to thecryptoshow.com/free Ross to donate. There's still stuff available to purchase, all of the proceeds of which go to the Ross Ulbricht Appeals Fund. So check that out. We'll probably have Lynn Ulbricht, his mother, on in the not too distant future as that proceeds in the coming months. So,
in studio, actually.
In studio. Yeah. Awesome. Excellent. That'll be really awesome. So hopefully that goes well, and they need your funds. It's not cheap hiring the powerful attorneys to fight his case. So go to thecryptoshow.com/free Ross.
Or come to Anarchapulco and buy some stuff off the table.
That's true. And also, it's not too late to sign up for Anarchapulco. With the promo code Crypto, you get 10% off. We will be there February 19th through the 21st. You can still sign up, and tickets are still reasonably priced.
And you can actually get them $50 cheaper from thecryptoshow.com/free Ross.
Oh, awesome.
They're actually $150 rather than $200.
Wait, for the tickets to Anarchapulco?
Yep.
Anarchapulco, awesome. So check that out, guys. And we will be doing a little fundraiser there as well. Anyway, getting to our first guest, our second guest in the second hour will be Holland van den Nieuwenhof. I hope I pronounced that correctly. One of the creators of one of the former members of Free Minds Films and creators of A Noble Lie about the Oklahoma City bombing. And our first guest is the CEO and co-founder of SpectraCoin, SpectraCoin.com, Vita Karalevicius. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, kind of correctly, yeah.
Say it for me one more time.
It's Vita Karalevicius.
Vita Karalevicius.
Yeah.
Okay. A little better.
That was easy.
Easier said than done. He is a PhD researcher at KU Leuven in Belgium, working on Bitcoin and the blockchain. He's currently working with the Swift Institute on the potential impact of the blockchain technology for securities transactions life cycles, how the blockchain could be employed for exchanging, clearing, and settling financial transactions. Before that, he worked in the management consulting industry from Bloomberg, and he has studied at Cambridge and Durham universities. It's quite a bio. Well, Vita, welcome to the Crypto Show.
Thanks.
Very excited. No, definitely very excited to have you on.
Where are you located?
Currently, I'm in Belgium, actually.
In Belgium?
Oh, okay, excellent.
Yeah, it's like 3 a.m. here.
Oh, that's where a recent guest, what was his name? Demeter is from Belgium as well. That's right. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. As I said, bear with us as I'm recovering from a car accident, so I'm a little shaken today. But I want to, before we get into SpectraCoin, SpectraCoin.com, SpectraCoin. I do want to mention that it has been featured in CoinDesk, the Bitcoin Exchange Berlin, Founders Grid, and then several foreign language European sites as well. So check that out. They have been positively reviewed in these magazines and publications. So do check that out. But Vita, tell us about SpectraCoin.
So actually, SpectraCoin is all-in-one solution for Bitcoin. What we do, we provide the Bitcoin exchange. So it's exchange for dollars, euros, pounds, yens, and like for a bunch of number of currencies, and we like expand the list of currencies. Secondly is we just a Bitcoin wallet. So it's both web wallet and mobile wallet. Why we're different from some other providers, like our mobile wallet is not only the Bitcoin wallet, but we also have integrated some payment systems, like when you can pay actually in restaurants in London or etc., or you can pay in gasoline stations back in Baltic countries by using Bitcoin. While the shops directly don't accept Bitcoin, but we do accept the payment network in which our wallet is integrated, so you can use a Bitcoin for that purchases. Also, we provide the Bitcoin merchant solution, which is similar to BitPay, which helps shops to accept Bitcoin and settle the payments in various different currencies. And also, we provide the Bitcoin debit card, which helps people to withdraw the money in ATM all around the globe.
Awesome. And how many currencies are you able to convert Bitcoin for using SpectraCoin?
Now we mainly operate with 6-7 currencies, which are pound, euros, dollars, Polish zlotys, Czech crowns, and Georgian liras. But like we're adding the currencies kind of nearly every week to kind of cover as much as possible, because that was actually our key idea, to have like a localized solution for different countries. Because even if you look at some of our competitors like BitPay, who I say that they are huge, but like when they have a merchant solution, they only settle the payments in euros and dollars. What we do different, we can settle the transactions in the local currency. So people who are, say, based in Poland, as an example, or in that case, or it would be like a Mexico, we don't have to receive dollars instead of like receiving their own currency, like zlotys or pesos. So we are kind of trying to be a local in every country.
Well, and that's a pretty big advantage, because not only is there added inconvenience when, say, someone in the Czech Republic has to convert Bitcoin to dollars and then convert dollars to Czech krona, there are transaction costs involved too. So eliminating the need for that definitely cuts down on transaction costs. So that's a pretty cool feature, I think. And let's talk about the wallet real quick. The wallet, is it hosted on the customer's computer, or is it hosted on your servers, or how does that work?
It is hosted on our servers, and we have like this typical solution of having like a deep cold wallet and a hot wallet. And like when in the hot wallet is like accessible immediately for all the payment transactions, while deep cold wallet is just like the one from which we use to top up the hot wallet, which is accessible online, so for the security purposes. But like the point is like it's hosted on our server, so the client can access it through web or through the apps on the iPhone, Android, or Windows mobile phone.
Okay, and the cold wallet, can you clarify that? So the hot wallet is just basically for quick transactions. And the cold wallet, is it like a cold storage type wallet, or how does it work?
Like, I mean, like all our clients, they kind of do share the hot wallet, which is accessible for all the payments, while like 99% of all deposits are stored in the cold wallet. So, for instance, when we move from the cold wallet to the hot wallet, there has to be a human interaction from our company.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. What are some of the security and privacy features of the wallet?
So to use wallet without like having the interaction with cash, or a small interaction with cash, we don't require like your identity. We only require your email and password. That's all. While if you want to have high limits for your debit card, or you want to make a bank transfer, then you have to verify your identity by providing the passport. But all that also highly depends on the payment method you use. For some methods, we have like less strict requirements for identity. For some, we have high requirements for identity.
Are you able to deliver to the U.S.?
We're not able at the moment to deliver to the U.S. our debit cards, unfortunately.
That seems to be a common thing with similar products from similar companies, I think, because of, I imagine, the regulatory environment here is pretty harsh.
What about a timeline? Say I put Bitcoin on there. How long before I can spend it on the card?
Actually, you can spend it immediately, because you can also get like a virtual card. So in that case, it only just takes the time how much for you it takes to click the buttons. Let's say in this way. And if you have a physical card already arrived at your place, so then you can top up your card and go to ATM immediately.
I actually have one of those cards, not that card, but eCoin, and it only takes just a few minutes, actually, maybe 15 minutes at the most to top it up. But they don't deliver here. They don't deliver to the U.S. either, so it's a little hard to use.
Like I said, a common thing. We're coming to break with Vita of SpectraCoin. Stay tuned.
Logos.
You are listening to the Logos Radio Network. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
This is what happens when you call the cops. Say what? This is what happens when you call the cops. Come on. This is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot. This is what happens when you call the cops. This is what happens when you call the cops. This is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot.
I'm sick of people being victimized by criminal cops. Psychopathic
predators terrorizing neighborhood blocks. Equipped with pepper spray, mace, cuffs, tasers, and glocks. They like serial killers acting out subliminal thoughts. Forget what you taught. These cops have got a license to kill. Witness intimidation means that they can use it at will. Code of silence means that the pigs will never let out a squeal. And if they go to court, they know the judge will make them a deal. For real, that's why they're stopping me, locking me up inside.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Show here on this lovely, I think I forgot to mention, Sunday, January 31st, 2016, a date which will live in infamy for me personally as the day I totaled my car. And next time, I'll always look when you go out into traffic. That's my advice to everybody.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Well, I definitely lost. Hopefully I don't get nothing because I did have full coverage, but we'll see. Anyway, we're talking.
But that was what's that Adam Sandler song? The piece of beep.
What?
There's an Adam Sandler song, a piece of ass car.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Sorry. My brain is still recovering. But we're talking about Vita Karalevicius. I probably didn't pronounce that correctly. I'm just going to say Vita, CEO and co-founder of Spectro Coin. Spectro with an O coin.com. And no, it's not another cryptocurrency. It is an all-in-one financial solution, though, for Bitcoin. They provide a wallet. They provide a Bitcoin exchange, which up to, I think you said 6 or 7 currencies, correct?
Yes.
And they also provide a Bitcoin debit card. And there's also some Amazon gift vouchers stuff that they do, too. We'll talk about that as well. Well, a quick question, too, before we move on to some other stuff. With Bitcoin, everyone is kind of wary, of course, when to some extent, even when dealing with trustworthy and reliable companies such as yours, or similar ones. How do I know my Bitcoin is safe? When I don't have the wallet on my computer, do you have any assurances or things that you do to kind of encourage people that their Bitcoins are safe?
Like the key thing we can provide is actually, let's say, our name and like our trust by being in the market for more than 2 years. So it's kind of this idea that like us, if we have already managed to stay for 2 years and not been in trouble and like protect our client funds, we can do that for the longer term. That's like one approach. And another approach for me, actually, how I perceive Bitcoin. I perceive Bitcoin more as a mean of payment, like a protocol, because I don't see high value to store like all your funds in Bitcoin. So therefore, we even like recommend people, even if you use our service or any other service, or they use the wallet on their own computer, you just have to store the Bitcoins as much as you want to spend in, let's say, in like next day, 2 days. Because still, like if you want to keep your funds, you have to invest them in stocks, bonds, or something else. Well, Bitcoin is just like a mean of payment. So you don't have to be exposed too much in it. It's the same way as you don't hold all your cash in your wallet.
Right.
Keep your money invested somewhere else. So like Bitcoin is another type of wallet. You just keep as much as you need to pay, and then as much as you're not afraid to lose.
Right. Now that is a really good point. I mean, there's some great companies out there like SpectroCoin and other companies that offer other services or similar services. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the security of your Bitcoins is your responsibility as an individual. And like he said, just like with anything else, no matter how secure, your wallet is pretty secure on your person, but you can still get robbed, right? Or you can still lose it. So just like with any kind of exchange account, only keep as much money as you're willing to use, only keep as much money as you need for those kind of day-to-day transactions. Just
with the fast, the ability to load it quickly, you don't need to keep any of the money on the card. You can load it as you need it.
Right.
So if you're traveling from country to country, it would be kind of nice to be able to receive this type of card in the U.S.
Right, with the debit card. Well, I was more specifically talking about the wallet, but yeah, that's a good point as well. Yeah. And 2 years doesn't sound like a lot, but in Bitcoin history, that's actually pretty good. Pretty well established for a company to be around for 2 years in Bitcoin. So, kudos to SpectroCoin for being that successful for that long. Well, let's switch gears. Tell us about your merchant services.
Yes, our merchant service is like similar to almost provided in the space. Then the shop can accept Bitcoins and receive a settlement in the currency we prefer. It can be also Bitcoins, but it can be euros, dollars, crowns, zlotys, and any other currency we would like. We provide the plugins for most e-commerce platforms like OpenCart, Drupal, etc. We also provide the API. And compared like to our merchant service to like some of the competitors, which is the additional benefit for the shops, is actually that we also have the affiliate program. So if they have a clients who don't have already Bitcoins, they can click on the button in our merchant window that like I don't have Bitcoins, and the shop will get like the 10% from all the fees paid by the client. which is a kind of benefit of our company of having everything in-house compared to the only merchant payment providers. We also have a solution for the physical places. Then the payment window can be opened on the Android devices, just like as a standalone app.
Oh, that's pretty neat. And also, if I'm not mistaken, unlike say BitPay, the Bitcoin's not for the merchant services. The Bitcoin is not automatically converted to say dollars. The customer has the option, or the merchant has the option of either keeping it in Bitcoin or converting it into dollars. Is that right?
Like the point is, before when he stops the merchant account, like when he, like let's say, opens his merchant account and then sets up the payment gateway, so then he can select which currency he wants to settle the transaction. And afterwards, all the payments are settled automatically to that currency he prefers. So let's say if he wants to receive euros or receive pounds, so he just selects that option before starting accepting payments.
How does the merchant receive the money? Does it come in like $20 lumps, or I mean, once you've accrued $20, do you then pay them, or do you pay the merchant for each one?
It depends on the merchant, because some merchants, like most of the merchants, they do use the bank wire transfer to withdraw funds. But let's say in the same case, if you're a merchant, you can also use our debit card to withdraw funds. So we don't do it like I say on the push basis. When what we would like pay every time you collect this amount. It's more than that merchant can like withdraw the money any time we want.
Yeah.
So it's either $1 or it's $1,000.
Yeah, it was kind of it was a little confusing. I had signed up a store out in Leander to accept Bitcoin, and they used BitPay, and they would get $3 purchases and $12 purchases or whatever, but they would only receive the money in $20 increments, and it was too hard for the merchant to try to keep track of did he get all of his money or not. So it was too confusing and too much work, so he actually ended up not accepting Bitcoin anymore because his BitPay was too confusing for him.
Yes,
yeah. So much for being able to buy beer at the the first place in Texas you could buy beer with Bitcoin, and it got ruined. It got ruined
thanks
by
to
BitPay.
Yeah. So I mean, it does sound that like SpectraCoin offers advantages to some of the competition out there. I mean, that's the thing. You don't necessarily have to be well, you do need to be better, I guess. What I'm saying is, like, as BitPay may have some advantages, but then that's a gaping hole right there. I mean, to do $20 increments like that, I don't even know how you'd run a business that way. That would
I know. I mean, especially when Bitcoin is so infrequent. What if you had a $6 purchase and 2 months goes by and no one else came in?
Bumps it up to the $20. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and that's really cool too. With the merchant services that you offer an affiliate program, 10%. That's actually pretty high and appealing percentage there for incentivizing people to get others to sign up.
You said that the cards are not available in the U.S. What about the virtual cards? Can you get the virtual cards here?
Like if you are not resident of U.S., like for residents of U.S., we cannot provide them, unfortunately, not at the moment.
Well, and we'll talk more about get into a little bit about the virtual cards, Amazon, and some other stuff. We are coming to break. We are talking with Vita of SpectroCoin. Spectro, SpectroCoin, SpectroCoin.com, all-in-one financial Bitcoin center with a wallet, an exchange, a debit card, and merchant services as well. So stay tuned. We'll be right back to talk with him on the other side.
Attention foreign language students. Hit the books and get out those dictionaries. There's major good news about learning a second language. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, back to tell you about a new study on bilingualism after this.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This message is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
Learning a foreign language brings many benefits, but a new study has found a major long-term health benefit to bilingualism. It may delay the onset of Alzheimer's. Canadian researchers reviewed hospital records of patients with dementia. They discovered that bilingual people were diagnosed 3 to 4 years later than those who only spoke one language, even though they had less education and job status. Though brains of bilingual people still develop Alzheimer's, the scientists said, speaking another language better prepares their brains to compensate for the onset of the disease due to the enhanced brain networks they've developed. Maybe it's time to brush up on that French, n'est-ce pas? I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht for StartPage.com, the world's most private search engine.
You're listening to the Logos Radio Network. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time. Take back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time. Take back the power. What you gonna do when the show?
All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Show here on this lovely January 31st, 2016, here on Logos Radio Network. Don't forget, LogosRadioNetwork.com. Help out with the fundraiser. You can get some cool prizes. First and second prize are offered by Central Texas Gunworks. And the first 25 people who donate $25 get My Magic Mud. And what's the vape store called?
All About Vapor.
All About Vapor.
On Airport Boulevard.
On Airport Boulevard is also offering $25 gift cards, I think, for 10 runner-up winners. So check that out. And don't forget to check out the cryptoshow.com/free Ross. Anyway, we're talking with Vita, the CEO and co-founder of SpectroCoin, an all-in-one Bitcoin financial solution center with wallet, merchant services, debit card, and an exchange as well. And we've already kind of touched upon the exchange, but give us some more details of the exchange and how it works.
So actually, we are more like a brokerage in that case. So we do not provide like trading platform as some other exchanges, but like we more work on the model of Coinbase, when like the person we provide liquidity for people, so we don't have to wait for the order to be opened or closed. They can just exchange any amount actually they want to buy or sell bitcoins or buy any currency. So that's our model. We try to make it as kind of as simple as possible. We don't provide this trading facility for people who try to speculate. That's a different business. Because we perceive our model of exchange or brokerage more like as the link between the money, cash, and Bitcoin. Because we perceive that Bitcoin as a protocol, so how we perceive our service, such as like in a similar way as the Gmail is for email, just like a client for the Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I prefer the brokerage style exchange. I mean, it's just a lot simpler and easier that way. And, I use Coinbase myself, and that kind of style is just, very easy to do. And so, what do you charge for a transaction fee?
It's around 1 and 1.5%. So actually, it also depends on the market volatility, because if market is very volatile, we charge a bit more because of the risk. If market is stable, as usually it is now, at least for the last year, then like the fee is lower, but it goes up between 1.5, max 2%.
Oh, and that's really cheap. I mean, that's comparable to other brokerage style exchanges. So, that's very, very affordable. And what was I going to ask? How when you do purchase the bitcoins, how quickly are they available?
Bitcoins are available immediately. And if you make a deposit in bitcoins, then you have to wait for the confirmation.
Oh, right, of course. But otherwise, they're available immediately?
Yes.
Okay,
Just it depends like the payment method you use, because if you use like instant payment method, like a credit card or instant bank wire transfer, which is like in Europe is available, then it's immediate. If you're making a just normal bank wire transfer, you still have to wait for money to get in.
I see. And if I recall from the website, you guys pride yourselves on the number of different payment methods that people can use. Is that right? What other payment methods can you use besides, say just a checking account or a credit card?
The key thing is actually we provide our solution for the payment terminals. So this means that people can buy bitcoins with cash, like all around Europe. We work in Romania, Lithuania, Ukraine, and so on. People go to they're called payment terminals. So they're kind of like ATMs, but they not only sell Bitcoin, they also provide other solutions. But you can also buy Bitcoin, so you just put the cash in and you get the Bitcoins. Also, we work with some providers, like especially in the Baltic states, like post offices, when you can go just to the post office, give the cash, and top up the SpectroCoin account and buy Bitcoins. Like half of our payment options are related to the cash, so you don't have to use the bank whatsoever.
Wow, that's pretty neat, and I think that's useful too, because in a lot of countries, even in in Europe, which of course is a well-developed part of the world, there's still people who don't necessarily have bank accounts for various reasons, or don't want to use bank accounts, like if you're in Greece. So I think it's great that they can take their cash, go to a post office or other locations, and use cash directly to buy Bitcoin. That's awesome. And how many points of sale, if you will, are there for buying Bitcoin using SpectraCoin with cash? Like, are there hundreds, thousands, or do you know a number on it?
There's for sure a bit more than 1,000. Like in Lithuania, there's at least 150. In Romania, there's more than 500, and in Ukraine, there's more than 800, I guess. And like we are trying to expand. Plus, that's only about we're talking about the terminals. There's like there's like self-service. But like if you include the shops and the post offices where you can like just scan the barcode and top up a SpectraCoin account, the number goes for sure above 1,000.
Wow, well, that's quite a few considering. In some of those countries are a little smaller, yet that's quite a high number. And of course, this is Bitcoin we're talking about. So getting that high of a number of point of sale places is pretty impressive, because Bitcoin is still in its infancy and still pretty unknown throughout much of the world. So that's really awesome. Let's talk about the debit card real quick. We've kind of touched upon it, but tell us more details about the debit card and how it works.
So we have two options. One option is the physical card, which is delivered by post, and you can use it at ATM or physical locations. And also we have a virtual card, which is exactly the same card, just you can only use it online, but you can get it immediately. Our probably key advantage to all other providers is that like we have extremely low cost. For the physical card, we only charge $8. For the virtual card, we only charge $0.50. And if you don't have like any money in your account, you don't have to pay a monthly fees or etc. And like all the top ups and everything else is just instantaneous. So when you put your Bitcoins in your wallet and you want to load your card, after you load it, you have a money like exactly the same second, and you can use it anywhere. And you can get like up to four cards per person per account.
Well, that's pretty neat. And I like that there are no recurring fees, because certainly like in the United States, and I'm sure it's true elsewhere, if you go to say, like Walmart and you buy a prepaid debit card, basically, you're going to pay, anywhere from like $3 to $10. So that's a very comparable price just to get the card. But the difference with those cards is they'll have a fee recurring every month. So that's really neat that the SpectraCoin debit card doesn't have a recurring fee structure. So that definitely sets it apart.
Yeah.
And so the United States is the United States going to be eligible for your debit card anytime soon? Do you know?
We hope so, but there are also like some other countries for which we are looking forward. Because, for example, like India is also like a bit complicated country, like States. So therefore we are trying to looking forward, because when we look at the numbers of visitors on our website, like still States are kind of is a fraction, but there are not many services we can provide to the States, while we have all the IT solution knowledge and so on. So States isn't an option for expansion, because it's a huge market.
Right. Well, I guess only time will tell, and it is definitely complicated if you run any sort of financial service to introduce that into most markets in the world, because of the regulatory hurdles. In places like the United States, where the banking industry, contrary to what the media wants you to think, is heavily regulated, and hence it becomes difficult to introduce new products like this. We're coming to break, and we're going to spend another segment, our final segment, with Vita, the co-founder and CEO of SpectraCoin. And again, it sounds like a wonderful tool to use, all-in-one wallet, exchange, or more accurately, brokerage, which I prefer. Debit card and merchant services they offer. And if you sign up as I did, it was a really easy sign up, and we'll also talk about that on the other side. They have a little kind of news feed at the top alerting their customers of new developments. So that's really cool that they have ongoing improvements to their service, as any good company does. But we'll be right back with Vita of SpectraCoin here on The Crypto Show. Stay tuned, guys.
Easy.
All right, guys, welcome back to The Crypto Show here on this lovely Sunday, January 31st, 2016, here on Logos Radio Network. Brought to you, as always, by our sponsors of Country Home Improvements and Brave New Books and My Deceased Car. We are spending one final segment with Vita, CEO and co-founder of SpectraCoin. Go to SpectraCoin.com, all-in-one wallet, exchange, debit card, and also they offer merchant services. And in the next hour, we're going to be speaking with, I'm going to butcher this too, Holland van den Nieuwenhof. I hope I got that right, because he's going to be here in studio in person, and he's a tough guy. I don't want him to punch my lights out because I mispronounced his name. But if he tried to pronounce my name, I think we'd be even. But let's get back to SpectroCoin and Vita. You mentioned the virtual debit card. Now, is the virtual debit card the same as the virtual prepaid cards?
Yes.
Okay, I figured, but just making sure. And I noticed one of your more recent announcements is something to do with Amazon gift vouchers. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I can do. So, like, one of our kind of branches of the withdrawal options, let's say, are the vouchers. So we not only have the Amazon vouchers, we also have the mobile top-ups for more than 120 countries. So number one option for these vouchers like Amazon and so on are for people who have only a small amount in Bitcoins. So let's say you have only $5 worth of Bitcoin. So if you exchange that and use a bank-wide transfer, for sure, it's not going to be worth it for you because you will pay at least, let's say, 70 cents for the transaction alone. So therefore, you can just get like a voucher or mobile top-up for the small amounts. That's one case. Another case why we have Amazon or something else as a vouchers for now for state as well, is that like even people who get like our virtual cards or debit cards, most of them used to spend it on Amazon to buy goods, and our card is still not for free, while Amazon vouchers are kind of say we don't have like any additional costs. So therefore, people can buy the Amazon vouchers and just buy whatever you want by avoiding their debit cards in this way.
That's really cool. Just another alternative to save money and to have ease of use. And, of course, needless to say, Amazon is the biggest online marketplace. So that is a perfect way to avoid having to use, say, just a regular debit card and any fees that might be incurred. So that's pretty awesome. Well, and tell us about your customer support.
So we have a team of 3 people. So they all speak English, and we try to provide the coverage not 24/7, but at least from 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. like in European time. And like we always try to be, let's say, personal as much as possible.
That's awesome. And I noticed on your site that it takes no more than like say if you email the customer support, it takes no more than 24 hours for y'all to get back, and I'm sure it's typically on average a lot quicker than that.
Much more quicker. Like 24 hours, just like we don't want to lie, so we want to keep our word, so that's why we say 24 hours. But like usually, if it's working hours, it happens instantly. I can give you a word for that. If it's a nighttime here in Europe, so then it's like it will do maximum, let's say 8 hours or 7 hours, as long as people are sleeping.
And that's pretty cool and pretty impressive with the 3-man team. So you almost work hard over there.
No, so actually we are 9 employees, but like the 3-man team is like we are 3 co-founders. It's me, Justus, and Mantas, and then like we have Mantas is also like responsible for the operations, so we call it the support as well. Then we have 2 other ladies for the answering client questions. Then we have a team of developers, and I'm responsible for business development.
Okay, I see. And why did you pick? So y'all are based in Belgium, right?
I am, because I'm doing my PhD, while we are actually like Lithuanian London-based company, because we also have an office in London, while our IT development team is in Lithuania.
And Lithuania is part of the European Union?
Yes, it is indeed.
Okay. And I think, I think that gives people Europeans tend to be very knowledgeable of the world and of other Europeans and geography and history. Americans, not so much. So I think the fact that Lithuania, which is a great country, nonetheless, the fact that it's part of the European Union, I think, gives confidence for foreigners who are interested in using SpectroCoin because, it's not a familiar Western European country, but being part of the EU, I think, is a positive sign for people. So that's something to be noted. Well, and speaking of Lithuania, what's it like in Lithuania as far as Bitcoin? Do a lot of people know about it? Is there a high adoption rate? Tell us about that.
Actually, the people who know it is like the high numbers are extremely high, and the adoption rate I would say is also very high. But it's not only about Lithuania; it's about most other countries, like in the Eastern Europe or Central Europe. That's maybe because in the countries where the income is on average low, more and more people are actually trying to work online. And as long as they work online, they require the means of payment from their online business. Let's say if you're a freelance programmer, you still need options to get payment online, and Bitcoin or some other electronic currencies is most convenient ways. That's why people actually are using it and knows it. But like the point is like we are incorporated in UK, and our office is in UK in London. So, like, regarding how many people, let's say, in London knows Bitcoin and how many people know in Lithuania knows Bitcoin, Lithuania is much, much higher number. Plus, like, if you look at the media coverage, it's also, like, kind of incredible. Like, every week we have some news on Bitcoin.
Wow.
Usually from abroad, but, like, it's in media. And, like, in the, let's say, in the top media, something relevant, like New York Times in States. So, at the national newspapers, it's always about Bitcoin. So, kind of, everyone's aware about it.
That's pretty impressive because it's rare here in the United States to get any major media coverage outside of kind of alternative news or Bitcoin specific publications. So that's impressive that the equivalent of the New York Times, say, would talk about Bitcoin on a regular basis in Lithuania. And, you know, you made a good point. Lithuania is one of those countries where highly educated workforce for that reason, but also others. A lot of people are working online, like you said. You know, maybe they're software engineers or what have you. And so Bitcoin, of course, is very useful for those people who want to get paid online because maybe their employers in the United States or wherever. So that's pretty cool to find out. And I wanted to ask you too, so I have family myself in Argentina, and I went for the first time last year. And in Argentina, the inflation rate when I was there, according to a newspaper, was something like 100% in the projected for the whole year, which is insane. And I'm curious, does Lithuania suffer monetary or currency problems like that also encourage Lithuanians to use Bitcoin, or what can you tell us about that?
No, we have euros down in Lithuania.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I even asked you that as part of the European Union. So it's part of the monetary union as well. I see.
It's not because of the financial stability. It's more because of the settlement of payment. Because like when you work online, you want to get your payment, let's say, instantly. So that's why you are looking for methods which guarantees you that you're getting money instantly. Because let's say if you're a freelance programmer or translator or somebody else, you cannot accept Visa or MasterCard. The only option for you is mainly the bank-wide transfer, maybe Western Union or Bitcoin. And then in that case, Bitcoin is most user-friendly because it's quick. You don't have to leave your house, and you can actually see that like person has paid to you just instantly. You don't have to wait 2 days for bank-wide transfer to arrive.
Right, exactly. No, that's why it's so useful. It's interesting though to note different countries why they have high Bitcoin adoption. You know, in Lithuania, as we talked about, people work online. In Argentina, their currency has hyperinflation. So I noticed when I was in Argentina, a lot of people were into Bitcoin because they had to be. And so it's just beautiful what Bitcoin has done for countries with either certain problems or maybe not problems, but certain common trends in their economy that they can take advantage of the benefits of Bitcoin. Well, we got about 2.5 minutes left. I do want to mention, by the way, I went ahead and signed up for an account on SpectroCoin at SpectroCoin.com. It's really easy. They've got like a sign up, link at the top right. All you have to do is enter your email, create a password, do the typical kind of, you agree to the user agreement, the user, I can't think today, did
It's the agreement to give your children away.
Yes. Your firstborn children. Anyway, no, it was super simple. Email, password, then they email you go to the link and that confirms your sign up and you're good to go. And, you go to the webpage, and what's nice about, when you do sign up, the webpage alters slightly so that on the left, there's a vertical bar with all the options you need for, using the wallet, using the exchange, ordering a debit card. It's very quick and easy. It's got good flow. I definitely like the setup of their website. So check out SpectroCoin at SpectroCoin.com. They're a pretty nice tool for Bitcoin for anywhere in the world, but of course, especially if you're in Europe. Well, we have a minute left. Vita, do you have any final thoughts for us?
No, I just want to adapt to your last idea about Argentina. So Greece is also the country where we use Bitcoin because now it's like we cannot get the money out of the country. So they're actually on our cards are very popular in Greece because the point is you don't want to get like your money transferred to the Greek bank account, but you want to have a cash like euros in that. So that's why you need like some card which is from outside of Greece. That's why the Greek people are using the Bitcoin debit cards or etc. So just to have like the account outside of Greece.
Right. Now Greece is
banking in the cloud in that way.
Right. Now Greece that's a great example. Greece, of course. Well, Vita, CEO and co-founder of SpectroCoin, wallet, merchant services, brokerage, exchange, and a debit card. Thanks for being on the Crypto Show.
Thanks a lot. Have a nice day.
You too. Can't be trusted. Can't be trusted. Welcome back to the Crypto Show, the second hour, here on Logos Radio Network on this lovely Sunday, January 31st, 2016. Brought to you as always by Brave New Books and Hill Country Home Improvements. And don't forget the LogosRadioNetwork.com fundraiser. You can go to the website and donate, and there's some cool prizes available. And we were just talking with Vita. I won't attempt to pronounce his last name ever again. Beautiful last name, but it is Lithuanian and a little bit difficult. But Vita is the CEO and co-founder of SpectroCoin. So check out SpectroCoin, all-in-one Bitcoin wallet, merchant services, debit card, and a brokerage exchange. Well, our second guest is someone I've wanted to have on the show for quite some time. And one of the reasons I didn't is because I wanted to do a lot of prep work because he's a man I greatly admire, an incredible researcher, incredible thinker, and now currently helping us out at the bookstore. And his name is, and I'm probably going to butcher your last name actually, but Holland van den Nieuwenhof?
Van den Nieuwenhof.
Van den Nieuwenhof. And as long as I've followed, I think the first time I met you was when you were part of Free Mind Films at the time, and y'all were doing a tour for A Noble Lie, and y'all came to Brave New Books, and that was already, I don't know, like 4 years ago.
Yeah,
something like that.
It came out about 4 years ago.
And I've been following you ever since. You had your own radio show for a while, right? Was it on GCN or on Logos?
It was on Logos, and it was on this network for a number of years. It was called Radio Free Oklahoma, and then it became Free Mind Report, then it became Radio Free Oklahoma again. But yes, I've been off and on the air for about a 5-year time period on this network.
Yeah, but I was, I've followed you ever since, and you do incredible work. And my point is, as much as I respect and admire you, and as much as I have followed you over the years, I still cannot pronounce your last name. And it's a beautiful Dutch, I assume, last name, right?
Yes, hence the first name.
Hence the first name, exactly. Well, I'm really honored for you to be on the show. I couldn't find a bio for you. Obviously, we just kind of covered some of your bio. Is there anything else you want to add about what you've done for our listeners?
The radio show on this network for a number of years out of Oklahoma City. I worked on the documentary A Noble Lie, Oklahoma City 1995, which was released in 2012, detailing the inconsistencies with the official story concerning the Oklahoma City bombing. It was received to pretty good acclaim. And since then, I've been working on a number of writing projects, and some of those will be coming out in the near future. But that may be it.
Okay, that's perfect. That's great. And that's quite an impressive body of work. And I probably want to get around to asking you about some of those writing projects. So we'll do that here shortly. Of course, I'm sure this, is very routine for you at this point, talking about A Noble Lie and the Oklahoma City bombing.
Well, it's been a while.
But it's been a while. Okay, good. So hopefully it feels a little fresh.
Yeah.
But what happened, and when was it that you started to realize there was something off about the official story surrounding Oklahoma City?
Well, April 19th, 1995, when the bombing happened, I was sitting in the chow hall at the School of Infantry at the Marine Corps base in Camp Pendleton, California, and I looked up from breakfast to see the federal building in my hometown burnt out and bombed out. And frankly, at the time, I was so concentrating on training and so forth, I really didn't pay a whole lot of attention. And I'd already been through the dehumanization process that boot camp and base training puts you through, so I really wasn't even feeling any sympathy. I was concentrating on what I was doing. But I started hearing things out of Oklahoma. People were voicing questions, and I started paying attention to that. And when I joined the Marine Corps, I was half awake.
And what do you mean by that?
I was familiar with the literature, and I knew about the New World Order, but basically...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I just, I didn't want to get a job, and the Marine Corps sounded fun, so that's what I did. And anyway, so I started hearing things coming out of Oklahoma. I started paying attention in California where I was, and and I started talking about some of this stuff. And I remember one time I was at the armory after the rifle range, and we were cleaning our weapons, and someone brought up the fact that I was from Oklahoma, and then they brought up the Oklahoma City bombing, and I started talking about some of these things. I started talking about the seismograph registering 2 different explosions and other things. And I wasn't even trying to convince anyone. I was just talking about this stuff. And 2 officers were nearby, and they heard me talking. I didn't know these guys, but they came over, and they basically told me I had to shut up. I couldn't talk about this. And I basically came to a decision right there that, one, I wasn't going to re-enlist in the Marine Corps because I don't like being told to shut up. And 2, I was never going to shut up about the Oklahoma City bombing again. So
that's kind of cool, actually. Yeah, I like that.
Thank you. And anyways, a number of years went by, and eventually things came together to where we raised the resources and the funds, and we had the people together to really put together a film. Basically what happened was we pitched the film to another established filmmaker in the genre, and circumstances arose, and he had to back out. But we had the film bug at that point because we thought it was happening. So we kind of looked at each other like, can we do this? And I was like, I don't know. Let's try. So we did. And it took about 2 or 3 years, and we finally did get it released. So
Just 2 or 3 years?
It took about 2 years of production and putting things together to get it done.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, I'm not a filmmaker or anything, but like that seems like a pretty short amount of time considering, one, it's a full length film, and two, it's really well done. Like I was really stunned by it. Like when I first saw it, I was already awake. New World Order, 9/11, other things related to all that, right? But I knew very little to nothing about the Oklahoma City bombing. And what I tend to do over the years is, with these conspiracy theories, or let me just say, well, let's dispense maybe with that term because of all the baggage.
Yeah.
But with alternative interpretations of official events, if it comes from a credible source, like it's someone I know to be intelligent or trustworthy, I tend to believe it, but guardedly until I find out more information. So I'd heard from others like, Oklahoma City, not the way the government tells it to us. But it wasn't until watching A Noble Lie that it really struck me, whoa. There is just a ton of evidence that the official story is bunk, basically.
Well, we were blessed with the fact that the Oklahoma City bombing is one of the most demonstrable cases of the government lying through its teeth and knowing it's lying. The Oklahoma City bombing happened in 1995, the very birth of the internet. So it received a lot of attention through the internet, but then it became overshadowed entirely by 9/11, and rightfully so. There's a much larger body count, much larger effect on world affairs. So the research and the exposure of Oklahoma City kind of stopped at that point. But a lot had been done. And we were also blessed with the fact that a lot of people prior to us had really put together a lot of facts that could not be disputed. So we presented that and our own research. We went on the road. Wendy Painting, my co-writer on the film, we went around and, interviewing neo-Nazis who knew McVeigh and other people involved. And we put together the evidence and we presented it. And, the fact is, it is 2 hours long. Which is kind of long. It was our first film, so we didn't know. We were just in love with every bit. But every piece in there is 110% backed up by evidence. That was our criteria. There was just a wealth of evidence to present. We had the privilege of cherry picking the very best stuff that was indisputable, and that's all in the film.
Yeah, his getaway reminded me of Oswald.
His getaway,
the McVeigh.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, gotcha.
The very first time Timothy McVeigh was ever arrested in his life was the afternoon of the bombing. Not for the bombing, but for speeding away from the scene without a license plate, getting pulled over by a state trooper while he had a Glock 21 45 caliber pistol in his shoulder holster, and allowing himself to be arrested after killing supposedly. And I'm not trying to say McVeigh was innocent. He wasn't. He was involved. He knew exactly what he was doing, but he was following orders, as he told his attorneys. And he allowed himself to be arrested by a state trooper after he killed 168 people, which is utterly ridiculous.
Well, what was Nichols' involvement in that? I remember, was it Terry Nichols?
Terry Nichols is the only other indicted co-conspirator in the bombing. Terry Nichols is the only one around McVeigh who was involved who was not an informant, which is why he went to jail and is still in jail.
Oh, that's an interesting distinction. That makes more sense.
Everyone else,
he was more of a fall guy, I guess, in a way.
Everyone else who was involved was working for the feds, even if they didn't know it. And Terry Nichols was not. He was coerced. McVeigh threatened his family. McVeigh admitted to this. He threatened his family, and Terry Nichols helped him construct a bomb that wasn't a bomb. It wouldn't have exploded. As Terry Nichols describes it, as the evidence backs up, they took 55-gallon barrels full of diesel fuel, and they fed chunks of wet, then dried fertilizer into the bungholes, and they didn't even mix it. And then they put blasting caps and Deccord into it. That's not an ammonium nitrate bomb. You must mix it thoroughly. And here's the thing, on site. You cannot mix it separately and transport it to the site because it's notoriously unstable. If they had mixed it properly, made a bomb in Kansas and drove to Oklahoma City, it would have blown up en route. And that was testified to that by British experts who were veterans of the troubles in Northern Ireland, where ammonium nitrate bombs were pioneered because ammonium nitrate is a common fertilizer in Northern Ireland and the IRA was using it. It's always mixed on site. The experts said they came and tried to check out the bomb. He's like, how did they do this? This is impossible.
So basically, they did enough of the bomb to make it look like they were trying to commit a terrorist act.
For a court case.
For a court case,
yes.
Exactly.
The bomb was mixed and manufactured in a warehouse in Oklahoma City and transported to the site that morning.
But it's still, I guess someone could be just completely incompetent, but that's just another part of the, there's tons of different kinds of evidence in Oklahoma City as in similar events. But some of the most peculiar evidence to me always with these events is the implausible human behavior. Mm-hmm. Kind of like what you were saying with McVeigh, kind of just like turning himself in after.
And on that's a good point. One reason it was so easy to debunk the fact that the truck bomb was the sole cause of destruction to the bombing was that they messed up. They made a mistake. McVeigh rented the wrong size truck. It was too big. It was supposed to explode in the parking garage under the building. Had that happened...
Oh, so they couldn't get it inside.
They couldn't get it inside.
Oh, okay.
Had that happened, it would have been nigh impossible to prove that the truck bomb did not do the major damage to the building. As it was, they had to park it outside in the street, and you can see, and as we present in the film, the crater in the street is not symmetrical with the damage in the building at all.
And it's so obvious. You can tell directly from the clear picture. You don't have to be a physicist to understand the basic.
Explosive waves do not turn corners.
Yeah, exactly. They're not like Bugs Bunny and then they just go off and suddenly change 90 degrees.
They don't make 90-degree turns.
Yeah.
What about Acme bombs?
Well, those are the exception, but they didn't use Acme bombs. Well, and let me ask you, was it simply a mistake on McVeigh's part that he rented a
It was a mistake. It was the human factor. That's the thing. The human factor in these affairs. The government's not perfect. The New World Order, whatever you want to call it, the cryptocracy is not perfect. There are humans carrying out its agenda, and they make mistakes, and they did in this fact. And this mistake and others, exposes the whole thing as a fraud.
Could the mistake have been intentional? Was he trying to maybe expose it? Some people make those claims about certain things. Obviously, it's speculative. What do you think?
I don't think so. I think he just made an honest mistake. I don't know about honest, but he made a mistake. We've interviewed people who were in McVeigh's platoon in the first Gulf War in honest tank. People were very close to him. I mean, if you've been in the military, you can't really be closer to a human being than someone you've been in the same vehicle with in combat, been in the same barracks room for a number of years. And he said McVeigh was a tool. He followed orders.
Absolutely. We'll be right back with Holland Vanden Nieuwenhof.
Here's now.
This is the Logos Radio Network.
For the longest time. For the longest. If you said that Bitcoin was my life, I would tell you.
Show enough. Show you right.
What else can I do? I'm so inspired by you, and I'm just holding for the long.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Show here on this lovely Sunday, January 31st, 2016, here on Logos Radio Network, brought to you as always by our sponsors, Brave New Books and Hill Country Home Improvements. And we're talking with Holland Vanden Nieuwenhof. Holland Vanden Nieuwenhof.
There you go.
I'll get that eventually. Still a little easier than our Lithuanian guests earlier. So a more Germanic like English. So I'll get it. But we're talking about the Oklahoma City bombing in McVeigh. And, of course, the film that he worked on, A Noble Lie.
Which you can see for free now on YouTube. Just look up A Noble Lie, and you should be able to find it somewhere.
Which is awesome. I mean, it's incredible that, a great film to get for free. And you say it's 2 hours, but I don't think it's that long. I mean, I think it's pretty riveting when something's that good. And I think there's a lot of people who think like us, who have alternative interpretations of historical events and understand the New World Order are awake. There's a lot of other people who aren't awake, but they've heard of, 9/11's an inside job. I don't think a lot of people have necessarily, at least to the same degree, heard about Oklahoma City.
That's one reason we made the film, was that the evidence was so damning of the official story, but it had not been exposed to a large degree. This has to be told. People need to hear the story. And that was our mission. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you watch the film and it's like, boom, boom, boom. There's kind of a slow build, but eventually it's all the evidence. There are even single pieces of evidence that seem to stand alone that if you just considered them really undermine the official story. Well, so speaking of which, obviously we encourage everyone to watch the film, and you absolutely should, A Noble Lie. But what would you say that maybe top 5, if you can, not to put you on the spot, but maybe the top 5 pieces of evidence that undermine the official government account?
Well, you can look at we discussed slightly before, was that the bomb damage to the building is asymmetrical to the crater in the street. And the crater in the street was much smaller than they let on the media. They talked about like a 30-foot crater that was 20 foot deep or something. It was actually about 4 foot deep, about 8 feet wide. And we know that from the workers on the scene. We interviewed them, and we talk about it in the film. They talk about it, that the crater was very small, and it was covered in debris. You can talk about the fact that everyone who saw McVeigh get out of the truck that morning saw him with other people in the truck.
John Doe number 2.
Yes. Yet this is denied to this day by the government, and it was denied in court.
They even were searching for John Doe number 2 briefly. Janet Reno on TV is saying, we're looking for John Doe number 2.
Yes.
And then they deny it.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Because they decided that they needed to pin it on McVeigh alone. Their ultimate arch conspiracy theory, which the government was advancing to blame it on the militias, fell through because all of the people they would have brought to court were working for the feds. So everyone who saw, even they had a hard time placing McVeigh in Oklahoma City in court because of all the evidence of him with other people. The only person they had in court to say that they saw McVeigh get out of the truck admitted under cross-examination by the defense that yes, he was with other people. So he was with other people. There were other accomplices involved. You can look at the bomb damage. You can look at the fact that after that they basically lied about everything. Like one fact, they didn't run the fingerprints. There were 1,034 fingerprints collected in the course of this investigation, which were none of them were run through NCIS or NCIC, the National Criminal Identification System. They tried to match them to McVeigh or Nichols. That's it. They did not put them through NCIS, which, the thumbprint you get when you get a driver's license, I'm sure is run through NCIS or whatever, when you get booked for anything.
It's very routine, especially in criminal cases.
If you get booked for public intoxication, they run you through NCIS. They collected 1,000 fingerprints, which they admitted they did not run, and they will never run.
And that's another implausible human behavior. It's implausible that would simply be a mistake, because it is such a routine and essentially mandatory part of police work.
Yeah.
How could they not do it?
Well, the family members of victims complained to the feds about this, and what they told them was, we don't want to mess up the court case, so we'll run them after the trial. But they never did. They're frankly admitting that there were other people involved with the family members, but we need to nail McVeigh, and if we involve other people, he may get off. So that's what they told the family members, but then after the trial, they never ran them.
Wow. Dirtbags.
There was a police officer involved in the bombing. Actually, he was the first police officer to respond, Officer Terrence Yakey. We feature him in the film. He was there just a few minutes after the bombing. He saved 8 people's lives who credit him with saving their lives that day. He worked in the building until he was injured himself. He fell in the crater. When he pulled up to the bombing 3 minutes after it occurred, he said that there were FBI agents outside watching. The problem with, and he knew these FBI agents. The problem with that fact is the FBI headquarters was not in the federal building in Oklahoma City at that time. It was 5 miles away. They were there already watching it go down. Officer Terry Yakey started compiling evidence about the bombing. He knew he was being lied to. He had seen things. And from our information, he had obtained a videotape from the Oklahoma City Police evidence room. And mind you, we have never been able to see the videotapes of the truck pulling up and blowing up the building because there are other people involved. They won't show them.
And how typical, right?
Yeah.
9/11, other events like it. It's the same MO every single time.
I mean, they got videotape surveillance at 7-Eleven. They'll show us if it gets robbed. But not in the case of Oklahoma City bombing and any other deep state event.
Not the biggest terrorist act up until that point in American history. Exactly. Well, and speaking real quick of Yakey, of course, if I recall what I like about the film too, when it starts out with footage after footage, clip after clip of news from that day. People on the ground, news reporters, first responders, officers, and just people working there, etc.
Did you not watch the news that day?
I was like, and I was in like junior high or something like that, I remember. But I remember it was a big deal. I remember reading like a Time magazine article about it. And real quick, I look back and I remember actually that article impacting me and thinking, man, this guy's evil. And how much I've changed since then, and I don't buy into the BS anymore. But anyway, but it's so cool because a lot of the footage says, secondary device. There's a bomb in the building. Yes. All these reports, dozens and dozens of them indicate that there were secondary devices in the building, and yet that is basically ignored afterward. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, you made a good point. You must always pay attention to the first news reports. Of course, they may be inaccurate, but pay attention to them and see if they play out. And what was reported, and it is true, is that there were other devices found in the building. Other police officers talked about this. They halted evacuation efforts of people in the building who were wounded and hurt to pull these devices out. They were real. We've talked about this to firefighters who saw the C4 unexploded strapped to the columns. And they were told to shut up about it. And
wow.
The fear of God was actually put into them to not talk about it.
Do you think it was in front of the daycare center for a, emotional effect?
I can only think so. One of the charges was placed directly into the daycare center. That's for sure.
So messed up.
Yeah.
So messed up. But yeah, just like with 9/11, tons of footage of first responders, like their secondary devices were moving people back, or there was an explosion, there was a bomb, boom, 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 all that sort of stuff. Similar MO with Oklahoma City.
People the day of were saying that there were 2 explosions, that the building started coming apart, then the truck bomb outside exploded, then the windows came in, but that inside the building it was shaking and trembling seconds before the windows crashed in from the truck bomb. And there was a truck bomb, but it just blew up the truck.
Right.
What was in the building was C4 strapped to the columns, which brought a third of the building down.
Yeah. And didn't the FBI, I think it was the FBI, they even reproduced the bomb, the fertilizer bomb, right? And they even corrected for the fact that, if I recall, the individual drums they found canceled out each other.
Yeah, the Air Force
explosive
actually.
Force. The Air Force, that's what it was.
The Air Force conducted a simulation of the bombing at the behest of Brigadier General Benton K. Parton. And they made the bomb as McVeigh and the FBI, who agreed on everything, said it was made. and it didn't work. The 12 barrels just canceled each other out, and the explosive force went straight up. It did no damage to their mock-up, and it wasn't nearly as strong as the federal building. It was literally a mock-up with no roof, with no supporting columns, and it did almost nothing to it. So they actually made a more powerful single bomb, blew it up, and it still did less damage to their mock-up. And the Air Force's own report said there must have been explosives inside the building. So you don't have to take my word for it. Listen to the Air Force, the experts who tried it. People say, well, why did you try to do a simulation? Well, they did, and it didn't work.
Yeah, the experts and people also within the government confirm that it couldn't have worked. And that's a really damning piece right there. Because if they built a bigger bomb and used it against a smaller structure and it didn't work, clearly the fertilizer bomb could not have been what brought it down. We'll be right back.
If you were hiding from the law, would you answer an ad promising a free TV to anyone who tested home electronic equipment? Some Chicago crooks did, and police gave them quite a prize. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, back with details after this.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This message is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
Con artists love scamming people with bogus offers, but in Chicago, police turned the tables and reeled in dozens of arrests. Police mailed invitations to the last known addresses of 10,000 violent felons, drug dealers, and burglars, offering $75 and a free plasma TV to anyone who came down to a warehouse to test out TVs and video games. Inside the warehouse, decorated with party balloons and posters, officers in bright T-shirts had those gullible fugitives pose for pictures before arresting them. 102 in all. I'd say even Paul Newman would have gotten a chuckle out of that sting. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht for StartPage.com, the world's most private search engine.
Kidding about chemtrails.
Looking for some truth? You found it. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
I've been walking a tightrope between fact and fiction. Been wrestling with demons in small bottle prisons. Been talking to sinners who claim to be Christian, but shouting at leaders who claim to be listening. And the pendulum swings from the left to the right. As momentum increases, the need for the fight.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Show here on this lovely January 31st, 2016, a Sunday, here on Logos Radio Network, brought to you as always by Brave New Books and Hill Country Home Improvements. And we're speaking with Holland Vanden Nieuwenhof.
There you go.
Oh, I nailed it. Thank God. I'll probably get it wrong next time, though. We are, of course, talking about the Oklahoma City bombing and his work on the excellent film, A Noble Lie, which, as he mentioned, you can get for free on YouTube. And it's 2 hours, but it's riveting. You won't notice the time go by. And you really, really should check it out. Well, I want to get back to something you kind of commented on earlier. You said that basically everyone who was involved or who'd been arrested was, except for Terry Nichols, was a government informant or agent of some kind. Now, McVeigh was in the military, but if I'm not mistaken, there's evidence that he actually never left the military but went into sort of a black ops situation. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Well, McVeigh told his first two sets of attorneys quit because he told them, and I know one of these attorneys is actually a friend of the family. Oklahoma City is a small town. And he told them that what I did at Oklahoma City, I carried out under order. I'm still in the Army, and I had been recruited to infiltrate neo-Nazi activity in the military. And what I did at Oklahoma City, I did under order. And the first two sets of attorneys separately heard that, said thank you very much, and they walked out and they quit.
Wow.
McVeigh, his separation from the military has never been proven. What it appears is that he was recruited into some kind of out of special forces indoctrination training after the first Gulf War, that he was recruited into a special program to infiltrate supposed neo-Nazi activities in the military, as he said. When he was executed, one, there was no autopsy performed as law requires on federal prisoners who are executed. His death certificate lists his occupation as U.S. Army and soldier, despite the fact that officially, according to news reports, he had been separated from the military for, at that point, a decade or more. Had held several jobs between then and the time he left the Army. They still listed his occupation, U.S. Army soldier.
Very peculiar.
Yeah. And his time in the military is very problematic. He had hundreds of dental appointments
Really?
Yes, despite the fact that he had no history of dental problems, told his attorneys that he never had any problems with his teeth. He had hundreds of dental appointments, to a lesser degree, dozens or maybe about 100 medical appointments, which is not really, that doesn't really happen with someone who's in the combat arms in the military. I was in the combat arms in the military. You don't get that much time with a doctor.
I don't think you get that much time if you're a terminal cancer patient.
Yeah.
That's really bizarre.
He was having doctor appointments left and right. And I've talked to people who were in his platoon, and they said he never missed any training time. I don't know what that's about. We showed them the records, and these are from the military records, which we have, which were never released in full. His full military record was never released in full on order of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
The Joint Chiefs of Staff?
According to Fort Riley.
Wow.
They said they had been ordered to seal. But what we did get shows all of these anomalous doctor visits. So was he going through some kind of conditioning, some kind of programming? That is the speculation.
As in conditioning or programming a la MK Ultra? Mind control type
stuff? That is what we believe. His psychologist that was appointed in by the court while he was in prison was later the military psychologist at Guantanamo Bay.
Interesting.
Who was a protege of Jolyon West. Dr. Jolly West, who was proven, we know, and admitted one of the premier MK Ultra brainwashing doctors for the CIA in the 60s and 70s.
Wow.
Who actually, Jolly West had a connection to Oklahoma himself. He used to be at the University of Oklahoma. Anyways, so we have all these MK Ultra doctors hanging around McVeigh. We have McVeigh going through all these doctor's appointments. We have McVeigh taking the hit, taking the rap for all of his accomplices. We can only assume that he was programmed himself. And I've talked to, we covered it briefly before we went to break, but I've talked to people in his platoon. One, his bunkmate said, McVeigh was a total tool. He could get punked out, quote, punked out by a third grader. He would, quote, if you ordered him to, he would spit shine a cinder block. He was an absolute robot.
Weird.
Yeah.
I mean, we can never know for sure, but that is definitely compelling evidence of some sort of deep conditioning like that.
Yes.
That's interesting. And do you think with the medical appointments, the fact that they were all dental, does that have any significance? I mean, like, was that just to cover for something? Again, perhaps maybe these experiments on him, but why dental in particular?
I'm not sure. It could be that maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was just cover for something, what they were actually doing to him. I mean, they weren't working on his teeth. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
He said he never had a cavity in his life. So, and also they removed, in the military, 3 distinctive moles he had on his cheek. 3 tiny moles, which is cosmetic surgery. You don't get that in the military.
That is really bizarre.
But they were kind of, they would mark him, they were identifiers.
Right.
And there was evidence that there were people going around using McVeigh's identity who looked like McVeigh also.
Which is also interesting because there is reports about that with Oswald too. There being a second Oswald, I forget, in Mexico or in Russia.
The use of doubles.
Is
a common denominator to these deep state operations, and it appears it was the case with McVeigh also.
And I just want to reiterate again, you said that the Joint Chiefs of Staff, like the guys who are at the top of the military, ordered
his record not to be released in full.
That's insane. That alone is like really weird and fishy. I mean, wow.
And prior to the Oklahoma City bombing, before any of this, the National Security Council funded an operation called Dipole Might to test and explode, under the guidance of the ATF, ammonium nitrate bombs at White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico.
What?
So they were actually testing in 1994, several months before the bombing, ammonium nitrate bombs in New Mexico, and the first 2 that the ATF constructed didn't work. Yet McVeigh, who was not a trained explosives expert, he may have received rudimentary explosives training and basic training, but he was not by any means an explosives expert at all, somehow constructed a bomb that worked the first time when the ATF, the experts, the world's premier experts on bomb making,
couldn't get it right the first time.
But they got it down, and one supposedly exploded at Oklahoma City. So.
Right, and he brought down this huge concrete building, yeah.
And as General Benton K. Parton of the U.S. Air Force Armaments Laboratory demonstrated, using engineering and the mathematics of bombing and explosive waves, that the explosive wave from the truck bomb the FBI said was used would not have been powerful enough to pulverize the concrete and cut the rebar in the support beams by math. It's impossible for it to happen.
That's crazy.
At the distance it was parked from the building.
Right. And that's part of the Noble Life film, too. You should check it out. Really crazy stuff. I also want to ask you, too, we'll get back to the big fan of the military, too, because there's a particularly interesting point I wanted to ask you. But since you brought up the fact that they had tested ammonium nitrate bombs in advance, that reminds me of, again, what you often see with these operations. There's some sort of telegraphing in advance. Not always that well known necessarily, although sometimes. So I'm sure you know about this, but there was a book written a few years before the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yes.
I can't remember the guy's name. Perhaps you can enlighten us.
Martin Keating, brother of the Oklahoma governor at the time of the bombing, Governor Frank Keating. His brother, Martin Keating, was a veteran of the Office of Naval Intelligence and other deep, shadowy entities within the deep state. Wrote a book in 1994, a year before the bombing, called Final Jihad, in which a Ted McVeigh attempts to blow up a federal building in Oklahoma City and is caught by an Oklahoma State trooper.
And that's not a lie. That's a real thing.
I have the book confirmed with the publisher. It was written in 1994, and this was even reported on the local news station in Oklahoma. How weird this was.
Yeah, I was going to say I've seen the mainstream reporting footage of it from mainstream media, so there is no denying this. And well, since we're on the topic, real quick, that's what some people would label the idea of predictive programming.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any comments on that whole concept? Do you feel that that's a real thing? Like, with 9/11, for instance, people will point out what are sometimes dozens or hundreds of examples of what appear to be telegraphing the events in advance. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, coincidence does exist.
Of course.
Yeah. Synchronicity does exist, and predictive programming does exist.
Simpsons did it. No.
Well, that's for sure.
And yes, this may be a case of that. I'm not sure Final Jihad was a terribly written book that didn't get a whole lot of coverage. I'm not sure what the motivation was to telegraph it.
Right.
Maybe it was an example of predictive programming, but it did happen. And a lot of these things, I don't know why, but this is what happened. And it's contrary to the official story, and we cannot discount it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one of the more bizarre aspects of this case, and there's plenty of bizarre aspects of it. Well, we'll return with a final segment with Holland van den Nieuwenhof.
Excellent.
Oh, thank God. One of the creators behind A Noble Lie about the Oklahoma City bombing. So stay tuned. It's some really cool stuff. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Show, our final segment with Holland van den Nieuwenhof, our illustrious guest here. We're glad to finally have him. I've been meaning to have him for quite a long time, but I wanted to be uber prepared. But we just asked him to fill in the second half. I'm glad we did. I wish we had more time, but hopefully we'll have him back on if he wants to in the near future. But we're talking about Oklahoma City. And I guess real quick, I want to get back to McVeigh and the military. I had not seen this until James Corbett. I think you've been on the Corbett Report before, right? Mm-hmm. James Corbett is another guy who's just excellent researcher and writer and thinker. But he did a little mini video on the OKC bombing that I thought was pretty good too. And I've not seen this footage. I'm sure other people who've researched this more have. But there appears to be footage from this guy who took who filmed a guy in a tank that looks remarkably like McVeigh.
Yes, you're referring to the Bill Bean footage, who's become a friend, witness. Bill Bean was a prospective filmmaker in the early 90s. He went to a National Guard base in North or South Dakota. Doesn't matter. I don't know. But and he was just filming some footage, and he caught this soldier who later turned out to look at, he didn't obviously know who McVeigh was at the time. This was the one soldier in all of the footage that he caught who acted very cagey about being caught on film. Most of them were hamming it up for the camera saying, hi, this guy obviously did not want to be filmed. Bill Bean didn't know what it was. He didn't even think about it. But he later, shortly thereafter, became the subject of a years-long harassment campaign that affected his life. And he had no idea why.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, no clue. Someone was destroying his life. And that's a whole other story. But long story short, when the trial for McVeigh was undergoing, someone was taking a look at his footage and they saw the soldiers. Hey, that's Tim McVeigh. And he looked at it. He's like, yeah, it might be. So we actually had the footage tested at the University of Utah at their linguistics, at their audiovisual lab. And their conclusion was that, nothing like this is 100%. But they said, in their professional opinion, I've talked to the professor on this, that it was McVeigh.
Wow. Wasn't it something like an 85% chance or something?
But the problem with that is it was after he left the military. And at this base was a demolition school, which he also caught on tape, Bill Bean did. So maybe he was undergoing in demolitions training. I don't know, but it appears that McVeigh was in Army uniform at a National Guard base, still in the Army after the military and the press says he was separated.
And didn't McVeigh also write his sister in a letter confirming himself that he was still in the military? Yeah,
he told her, that he'd been recruited out of the Special Forces training to engage in black operations, including drug running using many submarines.
Wow.
And control of domestic descent. And what's funny is at the time of the bombing, when the FBI came to question the family was confused. They're like, what are you talking about? He's still in the Army. He's not out of the Army. He's in Special Forces. He's not out of the Army. Why are they saying he's out of the Army? He's still in.
Crazy.
And this is, several years after he was supposed to be separated.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. Well, I want to switch gears slightly. We kind of talked about this off air, but I imagine, of course, I don't need to ask this really, but with respect to 9/11, I think we're probably on the same page about, how the official story is kind of bogus. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, when 9/11 happened, I was awake to Oklahoma City. I'd done much of the research. And at the time, I, like everyone else, I was like, okay, I know Oklahoma City was an inside job, but surely they didn't take it to the next level. And it took a couple months and some people waking me up to the fact that, yes, indeed, they did.
Right. Well, and I want to say, which is pretty impressive because it took me many years and it was a hard struggle. Partly the struggle was against social pressure because there's, needless to say, even to this day, it is really an unpopular thing to question the 9/11 event.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you look even at Alex Jones or Bill Cooper, both of whom kind of quasi-predicted 9/11 even, when you look at their video footage on that day, they're still not quite sure in the immediacy of the event whether or not it was, an inside job or what have you. So that's, even someone who's awake, it's understandable they couldn't take it to the next level because you just don't think that they're that crazy. But of course they are.
Yeah.
And they are.
And also you don't want to believe it.
Yeah, of course.
Also.
I mean, because it's terrible. It's like for that to be real, it's almost like you're living in a nightmare in a way. It's hard. It's not easy. Well, but so 9/11 is, of course, has a lot of damning evidence to it, but it seems like to me Oklahoma City is a little easier sell for people. Would you agree with that? And why do you think that is, if that's true?
You're right. One, because frankly, there's a lot more evidence that the government's lying through their teeth and they know they're lying. One. Two, people are no longer scared of Oklahoma City. They can look at it objectively. 9/11 has faded, but it's still there in their consciousness, and they don't want to confront the fact that their government can kill 3,000 of their own people. With Oklahoma City, people are separated from the event. They're no longer scared about it. It's, it only killed 168. And when they see the evidence that is so contrary to the official story, they realize, and I've been told time and time again that a noble lie has served as a wake-up tool to people who would not accept 9/11, but they saw a noble lie and they realized that if the government is willing to lie about the mass murder and was responsible for the mass murder of 168 people and no one got in trouble, well, obviously 9/11 is the next step.
Right. And what's terrifying is what's the next step? We can only imagine, and hopefully they don't take it to that level, but God knows they're capable of it. But we'll see. That's yet to be determined. And real quick, too, we still got like 6 minutes left, and I want to ask you what you're up to currently. But I do want to ask, too, you said that before OKC, you had kind of woken up already to the New World Order and stuff. I'm just curious, like, what woke you up, and like, what was that process like for you?
Well, I was a reader of science fiction, and as a teenager, and one day I came across in the science fiction section a book called Illuminatus by Robert Anton Wilson, which is a fiction novel about the Illuminati, but it introduced the concept of that. I had never experienced that concept before, and this was in a fictional form, and it stuck with me, and I didn't believe, it was fiction. And as I grew older and I started reading more and more, I sought out the weirdest books I could read, and I got these book catalogs that started talking about the New World Order. I was like, what is this? So I read a bunch of books, Behold a Pale Horse by Bill Cooper and others. And that started, it was just my curiosity and my wonder if the world is to some extent controlled by dark, shadowy forces, which turned out to be true, unfortunately. I don't want to live in this world. I want to live in the world where I can just concentrate on playing video games and, chasing beautiful women and making money and whatever, but I don't. I live in a world where under a government that is trying to control the behavior, turns into something we're not, and is willing to stoop to mass murder to achieve its ends. And I'm going to deal with it.
Yeah, well said, and I agree with you. Like, I graduated high school in 2000. I was 19, I think, when 9/11 happened. And growing up in the 90s like that, you had the .com bubble, but you had that huge economic growth period. Everything seemed, the wall had come down. Everything seemed like it was going great.
The end of history.
And then 9/11 happened. Obviously, it changed everything. So I totally agree with you on that one. Real quick before we get to what you're up to currently, just because this is always an interest of mine. You said that one of the things that woke you up is the Illuminatus book by Anton Wilson. Do you think that there is a real sort of occult element to the powers that be? And do you think, if so, do you think it's important?
Yes and yes with caveats. I'm not necessarily a believer in the so-called Illuminati. Obviously it existed at one time. I believe their methodology has been copied by secret societies operating behind the scenes to control governments and central banks to control human behavior for their profit. I don't think it's the Illuminati, although as a concept, yes, it is true. It's frankly the CIA and the central banks who are running the world. Yeah. And the occult is an aspect of that. You see that. You see people engaged in dark machinations, also involved in the worship of dark, shadowy forces. You see many of these events happening on days that have occult significance, numerological significance. And these are ways of communicating to one another that the event is controlled. Instead of having, mass text go out, hey, we're going to blow up a building tomorrow. They'll just do it 911 days after 9/11, like the Madrid bombings. And it's quite obvious that, it's a controlled event because they're using the numerology. Yes, I do think this happens. I think there are satanic forces at work that worship Satan. I'm not saying that Satan is real or not real. They believe it.
And that's the thing. That's a really good point. Whatever you believe personally is kind of irrelevant.
Yes, it's what they believe.
It's what they believe. And to understand their motives and how they operate, you have to understand that their own belief system, whether you agree with it or believe it or not.
And to the extent that you create your own reality, which is, if you act on something you believe and it works, well, you are creating a certain reality. I'm not saying everything's imaginary, but if they're creating this reality according to their belief system, we need to pay attention to that belief system.
Absolutely. And that's basically what magic is. And they, arguably subscribe to that. Well, we got a couple minutes left. Holland, what are you doing? There's a lot more I would love to ask you, and hopefully we'll have you back on. I'd love to have you back on. But until that time, what are you doing these days?
Well, I haven't announced this publicly, so it'll be the first time, but Doug Valentine, the author of the book, The Phoenix Program, commissioned me to turn his book into a script, which I have. And
awesome.
We're currently working on getting it made into a film. And the Phoenix Program, in short, was a CIA program during the Vietnam War to combat communist subversion in South Vietnam, basically labeling every peasant in South Vietnam according to their loyalty to the government. And if they got 3 strikes, 3 reports of subversive activity, they were put through the interrogation process, which almost no one survived. They killed about 40,000 peasants, most of whom
40,000?
Most of whom simply couldn't afford to pay off the cops.
Wow. And this was under the auspices of the CIA.
Yeah, in the military. And his book is based entirely on interview with military and CIA people. And basically the script it's fiction, actually. And it's basically the stories that they told him that said, don't put this in your book.
Wow.
So we're taking the more egregious examples and turning it into a fictional narrative to talk about the Phoenix Program.
Then when's it going to be out?
Oh, I don't know about that. We're working on it. But the script has been written and we're working on getting production done.
Well, that's quite an honor. I don't think it could be put in better hands than yours.
Thank you.
Well, Holland van den Nieuwenhof, thank you so much for being a guest on the Crypto Show. Any final thoughts for us?
I thank you for having me on. It's been a while since I've been on the radio, and people pay attention and stay awake and keep the faith. And we are winning. The fact that we're talking about this, and people on the street are talking about this, we are winning the information war. I can tell you that right now.
We definitely are. It may be a slow and go, but we are definitely winning. Holland van den Nieuwenhof, check him out online and check out the Crypto Show. We'll be back next time, as always. So stay tuned. We'll see you then.